of Reminiscing on Regret. After my split with my ex-husband, I became on fire for God. I found a church home in Pearland, Texas that I am till this day still madly in love with, even though I'm no longer on that side of town. I try my best to frequent the church as much as I can because that ministry continued to assist me in falling deeper in love with my passion for understanding God's word and his love for me. I built a prayer closet like I mentioned in the Lies He Told series and made sure to invest nothing but time in that closet every single morning before getting my boys ready for school. My finances were completely drained, but seemingly every single bill in my house continued to get paid. My children never wanted for nothing. God sustained me and he continued to provide even though the circumstances didn't look possible on the outside. He continued to keep me and my children, even after I made one of the worst decisions of my life by being involved with my ex-husband. And for that, I can never be more grateful. I continue to stay connected to God in a major way by praying that he will continue to show favor on my life as I had been thriving in his word. Now, I knew of a woman, same age as me or around the same age, that's originally from Mississippi like me. I considered her a homie. She wasn't a bestie or nothing, but she definitely was somebody that I would hang with from time to time back in the day. For purposes of this series, her name is Ashley. Ashley and I were friends on all social media platforms. One day I noticed that she posted a flyer to her Instagram and her Facebook story about an online ministry that meets on Saturday morning at 9:30 on Zoom. I hit her up and told her that I was interested and she was super excited. Mind you, now me and Ashley were back in the clubs in the day. You know what I'm talking about? So seeing us on fire for God was extremely exciting. Being that I was very interested in ministry at the time, any opportunity I had to become closer to God and to like-minded Christians, I took that opportunity. I also knew that if certain groups or certain people were genuinely following Christ or not by observing before interacting with them. And in this case, I knew on my very first Zoom call that I was going to attend again and again. I loved the message. I loved what people were sharing. The people seemed cool. And I loved the fact that everybody was on fire for God. I started attending them Zooms probably back in May of 2022. I didn't disclose to the group that I was going through a divorce, nor do I even think that I told Ashley that I was. But I received my divorce in the latter part of June of 2022. So I attended a Zoom in July of 2022 and I noticed this handsome glass of milk baby on that Zoom call. Unfortunately, I had never tried to interact with any of the other males on the Zoom calls because I basically looked at them as brothers. And if I can remember correctly, he was the only single male on that Zoom. There were more married couples on there than single people. He had tattoos all over his arms, nice teeth. He had a nice smile. And he had a football jersey over his head with his last name on the back, Miller, and a clear case hanging on the wall. So I noticed all this while we on the Zoom call. Now, baby, one thing about Jill, I like him thick, baby. He was most definitely giving thickness, baby. Not me thinking that nigga played in the NFL. So before we wrapped up the Zoom call, I know y'all know what I did. I sent him a little private message through the chat and inquired about that jersey. He told me that he did play football back in the day in college and he did graduate from a local HBCU. So I was trying to get to know him. You know, I'm fresh out of a divorce, but that didn't stop me from wanting to pursue a new friendship or wanting to date again. One thing about me, my heart will forever be pure and genuine. But one bad relationship didn't stop me from being a fool again. Because that's exactly what this story proved, baby. Once again. Anyway, child, I asked that man for his number. He gave me a number and I shot him a text. The text read, "Hey, Randy, it's Jill from the Zoom." I inquired a little bit with him and I noticed that his notifications and the text messages was always silenced, but it would always take him a little minute to respond, but I ain't think nothing of it. But I'll never forget that next Friday after I got his number, I reached out to him and his attitude was given real rude. Okay. So guess what I did, baby? I deleted that man number so fast and I went on by my life. I called that African down that street and told him, "Hey, baby, take me out to dinner." So we did. We went out. We went to 5 Central. We had a good time to the point where I couldn't get up the next morning to get on the Zoom call. But when I did wake up around about noon that day, I had a missed call from a number I didn't even recognize. So I texted the number with a question mark. And the response was, "Oh, I was just checking on you because I didn't see you on our Zoom call this morning." You know it was Randy Rude ass contacting me again. This ends part 1 of Reminiscing on Regret. Part 2 of Reminiscing on Regret. It's important to note that I woke up to that text message on July 23rd, 2022. So I responded back, and somehow we ended up on FaceTime with one another. This man was cutting his hair in the FaceTime, y'all, but he was shirtless. Now, I told y'all I like them thick. So I was stunned to see that he had tattoos all over his body, baby. I just thought he had his arms tatted. But, baby, the amount of artwork on this man had my eyes and my body just headed in a whole nother direction. Not I forgot how that man had that bad attitude the day before. But we ain't gonna get into all that. So the conversation continued, and somehow he asked me if I wanted to take him out on a date. He was playing that, y'all. He was playing, give it to me. But I repeated that question back to him, and he said, if you want to take me out, all you got to do is ask me. So I did. I asked him. He said, well, yeah, I'll go out with you, Jillian. Cool. He told me that I could come to his house and he would drive us to the restaurant. Surprisingly, y'all, the man lived down the street from where I used to live when I met my ex-husband, Jerry. So I told him at that moment, I said, man, I'm trying to get back on that side of town so bad because I'm way out here in Fresno. That side is really where my help is, the side that he was on. Lesson number 1, ladies, be so very careful on disclosing too much information on your goals, your aspiration, your dreams to a man that you just meet. Sometimes it can be used to your disadvantage, depending on the type of man. So I get dressed, I'm excited, and I drive over to his house. I text him to let him know that I arrived. He told me, hey, park in my driveway. And he came out that front door. Y'all, the man was just as bow-legged, but he was handsome as ever. He knew how to dress, baby. Shoes matched the shirt. Everything was together. I said, yeah, guy, you might have did your big one with this one. You did that right there. So he opened up his garage door and he drove a nice black pickup truck. I ain't gonna say the name of the truck because if I see them today in these streets, I'm still triggered. Still. Anyway, he opened my door like the gentleman he was, and I got on in that thing, baby. We drove off, and we ended up at Juicy Crab in Willowbrook. Shout out to Juicy Crab, baby. On the way to the restaurant, we talked briefly, and I really, really, really liked his flow of conversation. And did I mention that I thought the dude was very handsome? It's something about teeth, baby. It really do it for me. Hence, look at mine. Moving along. Anyway, we make it to the restaurant. Child, I called myself opening up my own door while trying to get out the truck. Yeah, that was my first mistake with him. It wasn't the fact, y'all, that I stopped a moment from him opening up my door for me as a gentleman, but not noticing how quickly he became upset about me being able to open up my own door. As this, y'all, this was my very first time meeting this man. And I did not know that would have ever been an issue. I would have never knew that was a trigger for him. Lesson number 2, ladies and gentlemen. Be extremely observant on your very first encounter with a man or a woman when he or she seems to get irritated, frustrated, or angry about something very small. It won't end well in the future if you don't realize the signs early, baby. Take it from Jill. You understand me? So anyway, we go into the restaurant. Mind you, I'm looking to pay because technically I have asked him out. But he did pay. Thank the Lord, because y'all know my financial situation was not in the best, okay? We ate, we talked, we laughed, we shared things with one another. We had a wonderful time. I learned that Randy had a 9-year-old daughter named Lauren that lived with him full time. And you don't hardly ever see men taking care of their daughters full time. He was originally from a town not that far from Dallas. I'm not going to disclose the name of the town. And he graduated from the local HBCU and he played football. I also learned, though, that Randy was on fire for God. He had just recently been baptized. He did not listen to secular music. He did not curse. He was practicing celibacy. He desired to attend seminary. He had never been married. He was healed from his past, and he worked from home. I knew, y'all, exactly what I wanted at this point in my life because all I desired after being through that gruesome marriage with Jared, I knew I wanted a man that devoted his life to Christ and was somehow able to lead me in the direction that I needed to go in a marriage setting. He even asked me, y'all, was I fully healed? And in my opinion, he was a man after God's own heart. Okay. Lesson 3, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And he also hears our prayers, and he know how to dress up a vessel just like a blessing. You understand me? Big talk, big facts. We drove back to his house after dinner. And as he backed into the garage, he was blasting a gospel song, and I believe it was by Jacqueline Carr. And he turned to me after putting that truck in park, still running, engine still running. He looked me deep in my eyes and he told me, Jillian, I'm a man that you've never met before. I'm nothing like your ex-husband or like any other man that you've ever been with. I want to know you. I want to love you properly. I want to build with you. I want to be your best friend. I want to cherish you forever. You deserve happiness. You deserve to be loved. Y'all, I began to weep. Baby, like Jesus wept over Lazarus. You hear me? Because I just knew God was blessing me this time. I ain't consult with God before I asked that man for his number. Baby, I just knew that this man was manna from heaven at this point. The ram in a bush, you hear me? Child, that man watched me cry. He watched snot come down my nose, trying my best to soak up my tears the best way I knew how. He wiped my tears, y'all, and he told me that I was safe with him. It was beautiful. Real Lifetime movie. Hallmark, if you will. Not knowing what I was about to get myself into. We got out that truck. We went in the house and I met his daughter, Lauren. Y'all, Lauren was beautiful. She hugged me as if she had just met an angel for the first time. He looked at me when she ran back off to her room and said, did she just hug you? I said, yeah, she did. Why? He said, oh, she just don't hug people like that. She don't hug strangers like that. I told him, I ain't no stranger. My mama has always told me I've never met a stranger. My spirit different. I believe my mama. We sat on his couch. We watched a movie together. Shortly after that, I got a text message from my sweet babysitter. I love her to death. She was my babysitter at the time, and she was trying to go to the club, going to the party. So she said, come get your baby. So I left his house. Shortly after I got that text message, and I called him once I got to the house, and I told him, hey man, I really enjoyed you tonight, and I thank you so much for allowing me to meet your beautiful daughter, man. Because that's big for me. Meeting somebody kid, that's big for me. This ends part 2 of Reminiscing on Regret. 3, Reminiscing on Regret. So we ended the call. Baby, I go to bed. I sleep so peacefully knowing that I just met an amazing godly man. Whew, I woke up the next morning though. And I see him that good morning text. What's going on, boo? So we FaceTime. He shows me his church outfit. I mean, dressed. Do you hear me? So he said, I'll call you once I get home from church. I just wanted to show you my little outfit. I said, okay. So I got up. I got myself dressed, got my baby dress, and I waited on his call. So normally, y'all, I take that righteous nap right after church on Sundays because I believe naps are a major blessing from God. So I came home and I took me a nap. Y'all, Randy called me once I woke up and he was ecstatic. I was excited to hear from him as well. So we chatted briefly and he said, dinner gonna be ready at said time. It might have been about 5:30 or 6. Now, y'all, it's July 24th. Keep up. I said, are you inviting me over for dinner? He said, do what you will with the information, but I'm just letting you know what time dinner gonna be ready. Smart mouth. So, baby, I packed myself up, and for the purposes of this series, the baby's name is Hunter. And I mean, we in a jiffy. I'm swift headed down that tollway. So I proceeded over to his house. Now, Fresno is a little drive. You know, Fresno to his house was roughly 35 to 40 minute drive. Walker, which is my oldest son, series, his daddy lived about 10 minutes from Randy. So by the way, Walker was with his daddy for the summer. Okay. I was like, God, you know I desire to be back on this side of town. So I'm super excited, y'all, to see Randy and Lauren again. This is the first time that Randy has laid his eyes on Hunter. We enter the house and you would have thought Hunter was Randy's son. He made Hunter feel right at home. He was feeding him. He was loving on him. He made the both of us feel extremely comfortable. So we had dinner And one thing about Randy, he has structure and order in his house, kind of like a military setting. His daughter knew her chores. And at 9, she was the most advanced little woman I had ever seen in my days, baby. I absolutely adored his love for his daughter. So we watched another movie that night, but I fell into a trap on the second time at his house. First off, I ain't had no clothes on me or nothing. I did have a few diapers and wipes or whatever for the baby, but I went home the next day. Now, this is a 100% transparent moment. Everything in this is transparency, but this is transparent for real. I did not have sex with Randy. Randy practiced celibacy, so I don't even remember us kissing that night either. However, we did sleep in the same bed with one another, and Hannah slept with Lauren in her room. Randy has a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. His daughter does have other siblings on her mom's side, so she was familiar with younger kids being around, sleeping in the same room with them, yada, yada, yada. She was extremely excited, though, to meet Hunter and have Hunter underneath her. Again, all of us were comfortable. The next day comes, I take Hunter to his daycare, and I went to work just like normal. I left work, went back to Fresno, picked up Hunter, and we went back to Randy's house. So I noticed the next morning, though, that Hunter was feverish. He had a runny nose. He was extremely clingy. So I immediately called off work and I tended to him, but I worked remotely. We all thought Hunter had COVID, child. The thing of it is that Randy cared so much for this baby. He wanted to ensure that I wasn't getting overwhelmed by the baby being sick or whatever. So we just stayed at his house. We stayed there all week, actually. Hell, to be honest, I never went back home after that. Like, never. And if you remember from the lies he told series, Jerry came over to my house and never left. This time, Jillian came over to Randy's house and didn't leave. Yeah, that's what happened. Lesson number 4. When meeting somebody, it's best to not involve children so early. Children's mental health should be at the forefront of every parent's mind. Listen to me. Understandably, us humans, us adults, we want what we want. And we desire what we desire. But think extra hard about how children will be impacted in every single circumstance. Now, honestly, y'all, I pray daily that my children will always forgive me for the things that they witnessed their mom go through in the past. Because my own selfishness and my own mistakes could cause my children to have a great deal of hurt as they mature. I just continue, guys, praying that God will erase it from their little memory because their mama was a fool. On my soul was a fool. You hear me? Okay? So y'all, it was July 26, 2022. Keeping up the timeline here. Y'all better be proud of your girl. In just 3 days, we was advancing just like that, me and Randy. During the course of that week, Randy and I talked about finances. We talked about our living situation. We talked about the children. We talked about our children's parents. We talked about church homes. Child, we were making life plans, big plans. Yeah, trying to outdo God, baby. Yeah, lesson number 5, don't ever make plans. Because God definitely is the prime example of, mess around and find out quick. You hear me? Tell you fast, baby. Now, I've been knowing God long enough to know that shacking up is never the answer to nobody's problems, even if you in debt. But after looking back on this relationship with Randy, both of us thought we needed each other to alleviate the financial pressure of one another. Mind you, I was in the middle of filing for bankruptcy, and I was always in the negative. Y'all, my bank account stayed red. You hit me. So in my head at this point in time, I was looking at this being a win-win for me and my children. No doubt about it. I could bring myself financially out of the negative, and my boys would have a loving head of household over them, as he was doing so well with Lauren and Hunter in this very short time frame. Y'all, Randy and I prayed together. We smiled often with one another, and we were genuinely happy being in each other's company. But child, it is time for me to break it down. Therefore, reminiscing on regret. During that week of many discussions and planning, we spoke about whether or not we thought it would be a good idea for me to move in. I told him that I just recently signed a lease renewal for my home out in Fresno, and the lease wasn't up until April of the following year. But remember, y'all, that I mentioned that I was in the process of filing for bankruptcy. So I told him that it may be an option for me to get out of the lease, but I would need to consult with my bankruptcy attorney. And I did just that. My attorney informed me that I could roll the home into the bankruptcy. August 1st was right around the corner. So I asked him, now, should I pay August rent if we file in this petition soon? He told me that we could get the ball rolling on the bankruptcy and file that petition immediately. So that way an order would be sent out to creditors, letting them know my filing status. And they would not be able to sue me for the funds that they did not receive. This also included my rental situation. He warned me greatly, though, that if I chose to place that house in bankruptcy, that I would need to have a reliable place to stay for a while. Because if you think it is hard finding a place to stay with an eviction, just imagine how much harder it is for someone to get a place if they filed for bankruptcy. I understood this, and I knew that I had to be so sure of this thing between Randy and I if I intended on creating this risk for me and my children. Lesson number 5. Don't ever put yourself in a situation that it seems impossible to get out of. When people know that you're desperate and they know that you need someone to depend on, this can be used to your disadvantage. It is so easy to be controlled or manipulated in this case. So after consulting with my attorney, I discussed it further with Randy. He was most definitely on board. He told me that he knew that it would be a right decision given on how good things were going between us. Now, in the back of my head, I kept thinking about the conversation that me and Randy had that involved the breakdown of the household bills and how having 2 incomes in one household is always better than one. I also considered the location of his home and how I would be back closer to my family. I considered the school district that I wanted my children in because I hated that ISD in Fresno for my oldest son. I even considered my oldest son's father because he drove a mighty long way bringing Walker back and forth for over a year on the days and the weekends that he had him. It was truly an easy decision for me based on all the factors in my head that I had put together. Now, at this time, I had absolutely no idea, guys, absolutely no idea that I was making the absolute wrong choice. And instead of waiting on God and depending on Him, I chose to put my faith in my plans and what I saw as an easy road out. Let me tell y'all something about God. No matter how far you travel or how much you think you know, you cannot be God. He's God for a reason. He knows the plans for your life. He can see things that you will never be able to see with your naked eye. He created you. He knows your heart. He knows how much your heart beats. He knows every single hair on your head. Why do we insist on playing with God? We will lose every single time. And this time, my loss cost me. It cost me friendships. It cost me heartache. It cost me pain. And it cost me my peace. I lost everything again in such a short span of time. I had no handle on my life. I got Hunter enrolled in a daycare right outside of this man's subdivision so quickly. Oh, but God. Now, when I first met Randy, in one of our conversations, he asked me if I liked elevation worship, and I love elevation worship. He asked me if I would like to accompany him to the concert in San Antonio on August 6th. I told him sure, and of course I was extremely excited because listen, when a man is on my type of time with music, I'm with that. So Walker had a basketball game at the YMCA that morning of August 6th. And this was the first time that Randy would meet Walker's father, Michael. Randy met Walker briefly on July 28th when I got him for a few hours to go out to eat with us at Texas Roadhouse. But it was still summer break, so he went back with his daddy that night. We walked into the gym at the YMCA. I introduced Randy to Michael, and Walker, he was already playing on the court. Michael is extremely friendly. We are really personable people, and that's probably why we have a pretty extroverted son. And Michael, he is so goofy, like so goofy, just like me. So anytime we see each other, we dap up like we boys. It's the whole nine. Essentially, that's my dog, okay? Always will be. But Michael a little old-fashioned. He wear the cell phone on his hip with the clip. Now, Michael almost 40, but he does have old man ways. I ain't lying. Now, what I did was I pushed his phone to check the time while the game was going on because I knew that me and Randy wanted to get on the road to San Antonio in a good span of time. Now, what did I do that for? Randy immediately asked me, "What you doing?" I said, "Man, I'm just checking the time." Michael even said, shoot, man, it's 9:50. They got about 5 more minutes left of this game. Now, I could see how me pushing that man's phone could have possibly made Randy a little upset, but given my relationship with Michael, it wasn't done with no malicious intent. Randy stepped in front of me, y'all, on the side of that basketball court and said, "Don't do that no more." And he was dead serious. I laughed and said, "Do what?" He said, "Don't put your hands on him no more." I understood, and I just basically nodded my head in agreement. I went, took pictures with Walker once the game was over, stayed a little bit because they was being acknowledged with rewards and trophies and, the little hang things. And we left, heading down on there to San Antonio. Now, on the drive to San Antonio, we talked, we grabbed something to eat, we vibed. It wasn't nothing out the ordinary. Now, it is important to note this piece of the story. Randy purchased 2 tickets a month or so before we began communicating for this concert for him and another woman that was a part of the online ministry. They were going to attend this concert together. He indicated that he booked 2 separate hotel rooms because it was a friendly trip they were taking. They were strictly friends, no strings attached, platonic. He wasn't trying to date her, according to him, or anything like that. It was just 2 people going to a concert as folks in ministry. He did contact her to let her know that he had found somebody else to go with because she told him that she was unable to go. But from my understanding, she doubled back and she was able to attend at the very last minute. But by that time, I was in the picture. Now, I didn't believe him at first about they was having separate rooms with one another. I ain't believe that, but he did show me the booking and it did have her name on it on the extra hotel room. So when we arrived to the hotel in San Antonio, we checked in. He did cancel that room before we came that had her name on it. So we checked in, took a nap, woke up, got dressed, and headed out to the concert. The concert, y'all, was beyond beautiful. We took our very first picture at the concert. We worshiped. We enjoyed every bit of that concert. We went back to the room and we individually took showers and laid next to one another in their bed. He looked at me and he said, "Guess what?" I said, "What?" And he told me that he loved me. And I absolutely could not believe he said that to me. It wasn't that I didn't think he loved me. I just said to myself, wow, this is insane. How could he already love me? Y'all, we met for the first time on July 23rd. It is now August 6th. The timeline is insanely outrageous already. Here's an informational video. The narcissist abuse cycle is a pattern of behavior that is common in relationships where one partner is a narcissist. This cycle can be difficult to break free from, but it's possible with the right help and support. In the idealization phase, the narcissist puts their partner on a pedestal and worships them. They'll make them feel like they are the most special and the most important person in the world. This can be a very intoxicating feeling, and it is often what keeps people in the relationship despite the red flags that may be present. Love bombing is a form of psychological and emotional abuse that involves a person going above and beyond for you in an effort to manipulate you into a relationship with them. It looks different for every person, but it usually involves the following: some form of excessive flattery and praise, over communication of their feelings for you, showering you with the needed or unwanted gifts, or early and intense talks about your future together. Love bombing can happen intentionally or unintentionally. Love bombing is usually driven by a person's insecurities, their inability to trust, and their dependence on other people. Although anyone can do it, love bombing is most often associated with people who have an anxious or insecure attachment style or narcissistic personality disorder. People can also pick up on this behavior by learning it from their parents or from past abusive relationships. It can also be a side effect of unresolved childhood trauma.